go ahead and say your name, introduce yourself and your title, and...
My name is Sergeant William Lagasse of the Defense Protective Service Police at the Pentagon. On September 11th, the morning of the terrorist attack, I was refueling my police cruiser at the Barracks K gas station, approximately 1/8 of a mile from the heliport side of the Pentagon. While I was refilling my tank, I was standing outside the vehicle. It was a really nice day. It was beautiful blue sky. American Airlines 757 flew approximately 100 feet above the ground level, maybe 60 feet in front of me. And that was probably, I'm trying to think here, give some estimate of speed. Was, at the time, I thought was probably 400 miles an hour, which was about right. The wind blast from the wing vortices knocked me into my vehicle. First thing I did was call our communications, and I merely stated an aircraft had just flown into the side of the building. I arrived on scene probably 15 to 20 seconds after impact, and went into the renovation construction area where they have a series of trailers, and that's also on the west side of the Pentagon, just south of where the aircraft hit the building, maybe 100 yards, and began helping people out of that area. There were secondary explosions from compressed natural gas and welding equipment that forced me to leave the area, as well as the smoke from the plane impact. You just couldn't breathe and you couldn't see anything. It was too dark. At that point, I exited the area, linked up with my supervisor, and just began kind of a methodical search and recovery of evidence from the aircraft. And that's pretty much how my day went. Did not see many injured people other than, minor injuries. It seems to me that either you, from what I saw, maybe 15 to 16 people were taken away in ambulances. The rest of the people were treated for minor scrapes, and unfortunately the rest of the injuries were fatalities. I made contact with a couple of people that I had known, made sure they were okay, and that was pretty much it. Other than that, it was just like chaos, complete and utter chaos. At least until the remainder of that day. When I left, I had stayed there probably 17 hours that day. I have an explosive detection canine with me, so we were kind of busy searching luggage that people, when they were running out of the building, just dropped their bags and things like that. And we had to search all of them before we could declare an area safe. I think that's about it. Do you have any specific questions you want me to answer?
Maybe just in general, having to go to work every day probably after that, how that's come into effect. Dealing with September 11th probably all over again every time you go to work. What is the kind of feeling at the Pentagon?
It's funny you say that. We had an aircraft last night, a ATA 737. ATA is the airline. It's called AirTran Airways. That had a missed approach going into National. The pilot was a new pilot. And flew about 200 feet over the Pentagon, completely out of the normal final approach. I witnessed this whole thing. We called National Airport and asked them what was going on. They told us nothing regular was happening. So the police officers that were watching this immediately thought we were being attacked again. So the anxiety level is still here. It probably has not left me. The image of the airplane flying into the building has not ever left me. It's almost surreal. I have, it's not like it's been keeping me up at night, but it's not something I go, I've never gone a day since then without seeing it in my head. But other than that, it's just, we got a job to do, we need to do it, and that's pretty much the way things have been going.
Yeah. And overall, how does it affect your whole sense of security even?
To be honest with you, it didn't really change anything as far as the way I thought. We always knew the possibility for something like this existed. I don't think anybody outwardly stated they were prepared for it, but we all kind of knew that something like that was going to happen eventually. I don't think we knew, who, what, when, or why, but we knew that there was a potential for an aircraft to hit the building, if not from an accident to national. I think most people thought of it that way, that if a plane ever hit the building, it was because it had a problem either on takeoff or landing. So as far as my perceived safety, I've never felt really safe at the building because it is such a target and it is a public building, and access to the Pentagon reservation itself is pretty open. Access into the building is very restricted. Yeah, it's open. There were people that were running just crazy, and there's people that were just standing still, just unable to move. The people I ran into that were disoriented or unable to move, I escorted them out of the hazardous area. Maybe 10 to 15 people I escorted out of that construction area.
Wow.
But there's, I won't even pretend to be a hero. I think there were too many other people that did work. Mark Bright, John Wayman, guys that really did some heroic things and are getting zippy credit for it, which is kind of unfortunate. So we've had one officer that's been recognized perhaps too much, and we've got several officers that haven't been recognized at all, and it's disheartening. But other than that,
Yeah, hopefully through this, that...
It's an absolutely surreal thing to see. It's not something I ever thought I would see in my lifetime. And the unusual thing is I can play it back in my head, and when I was talking with the FBI investigators, maybe half an hour to 45 minutes after the attack, I was able to recall details about the plane that were, I knew the landing gear was up, I knew the flaps were retracted, I could see the windows had the shades pulled down, so the people couldn't see out. Things like that just kind of stick in my head. I remember being on the scene and seeing a chunk of the plane that just said Amera on it. It didn't say American, it just said Amera, because that was the biggest piece that I saw of the aircraft. I remember seeing the light poles that the plane hit that knocked it down. It's absolutely surreal. I mean, I'm almost glad there's no videotape of it, so we didn't have to see it over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But, I'm thankful that no more people were killed than we had lost. I mean, we could have lost a lot more. I'm just thankful for that. The old building held up pretty good. So it saved a lot of lives.
Yeah.
But,
Great.